there was a huge leak of Tau Codex stuff on the Tau 40k subreddit. I'll put a link in the description. What this gave us was lots of information that we hadn't seen before, including some very, very interesting changes about MARKERLIGHTS, the SAVIOUR protocol, and for the greater good abilities. I'll get into that in a minute, but let's remember this is a leak on Reddit. It looks legit because he's obviously posted a picture of himself, sorry, his cat with the codex, not him, unless he was the cat. Huge grain of salt because it could all be bollocks, so we'll see when the codex is released, but it looks legit to me. The army-wide stuff, the interesting things, for the greater good and free Overwatch are gone. SAVIOUR protocols gone, dead as a dodo, but drones are part of the unit, so they can at least ablate off some of the early wounds. Don't forget though that the hit has to be allocated to a model that has lost wounds. So if you've got something like a broadside and 2 drones, then the broadside has to take the hit if it's already wounded. So either you've got to kill the drones first or risk taking a wound on the broadside and then not being able to fire off any incoming hits to the drones. So something to think about when you are putting your units together, whether to put drones in the unit, because if they're not in the unit then they can't ablate the wounds. There is the stratagem, obviously it's not a stratagem. SAVIOUR protocols can't be used on storm surges or riptides, obviously they think they're too big. The shield drones have lost their feel no pain, so they are now only running on their invuln, but they've dropped in points and gained a wound, so swings and roundabouts there. MARKERLIGHTS have completely changed. Previously they were a heavy 1 weapon, so anything that had moved suffered the -1 to hit to fire them, except vehicles obviously. Now they have become an action at the start of the movement phase, so anything that has a MARKERLIGHT can't move and fire it at the same time. So you'd think that's a bit of a nerf, but vehicles seem to be excluded from this. Also marker drones and also pathfinders. Pathfinders seem to have their own special rule which says that their action is at the end of the movement phase, so they can still move and then trigger the MARKERLIGHT. So once the MARKERLIGHT has been successfully fired, or the action is a success, on a 3-up, you get to add a marker to an enemy unit, and then you can use that marker when one of your units shoots to give you a +1 to hit. I'm not sure how these work on Seeker missiles. Previously, Seeker missiles needed your MARKERLIGHTS to give you the full ballistic skill of the firing model. Otherwise, they would hit on 6. I don't know if they can only be, if the same rule applies. You can only fire them at a unit that has a MARKERLIGHT on it. So you get the +1 to hit and you get to use your Seeker missiles. Sept Tenets, I'm not going to read these all out because there's nothing. Anybody who's worked any sort of job where people love meetings with PowerPoints knows that the most boring thing in the world is somebody reading out the PowerPoint for you. By the way, I have made this PowerPoint taking everything I can easily get at, so I am going to put a link to this in the description, and you can pull it down and view it at your pleasure. I don't know why you bother, like you can just step through the video, but I'll stick it up anyway. So there's a good range of stuff here. I like Borkan a bit and the Tau a bit, but then again I am a bit weird, so we'll see which one works out to be the best once the competitive lists and the tournament scene get their hand on this. Then we're moving on to our HQs. Ethereals now have litanies, so it's a 3-up to cast. They know 2, they can cast 1, and again, not going to read them out. The Fireblade volley fire is now an aura of exploding 6s for core with pulse weapons. So unfortunately, that means that things like the Storm Surge don't get this, because I don't think the Storm Surge is core. It does have pulse weapons, not core. I don't think drones are core either. Long Strike is now down to a 3-up ballistic skill from his 2-up. The MARKERLIGHT changes will help offset this a little bit, but it's still a bit of a nerf to him. I think he gets a reroll to other units, not himself. But again, he is Tau Sept locked. I didn't see anything about him not being Tau Sept locked, which is a pity. The XV8 are all the commanders. I think all the commanders get a reroll 1 to core. Reroll hit ones, sorry, reroll ones to hit to core. The Cold Star commander has lost his 20-inch move and 20-inch advance, which is a bit of a bummer because that was his main thing. That was his big thing, was that he could just zip across the battlefield blowing stuff up. But now he's down to 14-inch move and D6 advance. So I'm hoping there's something I've missed in there about some other buff that he gives, but I didn't see anything else. So looks like he's not as tempting, especially given the Enforcer has a -1 damage reduction built into him. So Enforcers look tempting as well. The squads of Fire Warriors are now minimum 10 models, so that's your Breachers and your Strike Team. There is a stratagem that gives them a reroll to Devilfish for some reason. Only works on Fire Warriors, so tempting to do the Fish of Fury with the Breachers stuffed into Devilfish, head towards an objective, pile out, and start blasting, especially if you put a Fireblade in with them. And that will give you the exploding sixes. Kroot, I've got a bit of a strength buff, an attack buff, and an AP buff. And for only 6 points, again, a very tempting include. Not an auto include, perhaps. Now, XV8s have changed a fair bit. Previously, they had 3 weapons, or 3 weapon slots, and they could replace any of the weapon slots with a support system. Now they've got the 3 weapon slots, and the support slot is extra. So it's much more like the bigger brothers. A lot of the bigger brother suits have, can take 1 support system or can take 2 support systems. Now the XV8s get to take a support system. The counterbalance to this is that the weapons seem to have some sort of increasing cost mechanism. So every time you take that weapon on the same model, it increases in cost. So the first flamer would be 5 points, second flamer 10, third 15, and so on. It seems like they're trying to force mixed weapon loadouts, which I'm not 100% sure I like. These are the support systems that I could see in the post. Now, interestingly, the early warning override is the one that I'm not 100% sure about whether it's going to use the stratagem or, well, it says it costs 1 less command point, so it must be using the stratagem, which means even if it's 0 command points, it still counts as using the stratagem, which means that you only get to do it once per turn. So you may or may not think it's worth it. I don't know. Shield generators are 5 points for Crisis, 10 for Commanders, but they're built in for Storm Surges and Riptides. Riptides already had one, I think. Storm Surges could take a shield, but didn't have to. You probably would, because it's not that many points and it gives it a 4-up invuln, but now it's built in. So I don't know if that means they're losing a support slot. I think they had 2, so they might be down to just 1. We'll see when the actual rules are released for it. I haven't seen things like that, how many support slots it gets. Pathfinders, as I said, get to use their marker lights after they've moved for their action, so they still get to move and use marker lights. The Ion Rifle has a bit of a buff, and so did the Vespid Neutron Blasters there. So the Neutron Blasters get an extra 1 AP and damage 2. Now the Sun Shark looks like it might be a tempting choice. It's got a Pulse Bomb, which is 66 dice, and 4-ups are mortal wounds, and that is going up to 10 dice against larger squads. It's also got 12 of the Ion Rifles, these Ion Rifles here. So theoretically, it could kill itself if it rolled 1s and you'd overcharge them all, and they all rolled 1s. I think it would blow up, which is almost tempting to do just for the lulz. I've been meaning to get a Sun Shark. I have a soft spot. If you don't know me, I have a soft spot for flyers. I like pretty much every flyer in the game. It's sort of one of my ambitions to collect one of each, so I'm going to have to get a Sun Shark now. The Riptide. Yes, it's moved. It was an elite. It is now a heavy support. So that means it's fighting for heavy support choices against hammerheads with their lovely new railguns, and also against broadsides, which have got a buffed heavy rail rifle. So the big change, other than moving into heavy support, is the Nova reactor now doesn't damage the model, but what it does is if you fail the test, it burns out for the rest of the battle and you can't use it. The other change is it doesn't have the 3-up invuln, so previously the Nova reactor could be used to give you a 3-up invuln. I think Games Workshop, and quite rightly, actually thought that that was too powerful, so it's now a 5-up, feel no pain. You still get your 2d6 move and your extra shots. So choices, whichever way you want to run it. Whether or not you're going to pick this over your hammerheads, we'll see again how everything plays out, but hammerheads look good. The Skyray gunship, the previous redheaded stepchild orphanage, I don't know, it was, you wouldn't have picked it because it basically, seeker missiles aren't really worth it, at least not in 8th and 9th, but now the Skyray gunship has a seeker missile rack. It implies it's firing on the Skyray's ballistic skill, so it's got a 72-inch range, a heavy D3 plus 1, strength 9, AP minus 3, 2d3 damage. So that looks like a steady choice. Obviously you've got things like the D3 plus 1, so minimum 2, averaging 3, maybe even getting 4 shots. Strength 9 is a good strength. AP minus 3 is nice. 2d3 damage is obviously going to smooth it out instead of a d6, because everybody here's rolled 1 for damage instead of on a d6. So nice to have it smoothed out. And then we've got a nice stratagem to let you shoot at line of sight, out of line of sight things, and plus 1 to wound for the attack. So maybe 1 Skyray in your army, so you can use this strat to bombard something out of sight. Park this where you can't see it, can't get at it, and shoot out of line of sight. Might work. The broadside, its heavy rail rifle, is now strength 9, up from strength 8, and D3 plus 3 damage from D6. It's also now got the auto mortal wound on a successful wound. Previously it got a mortal wound if you rolled a 6 to wound. So a bit of a buff to the heavy rail rifle. And the high yield missile pod is still heavy 4, still strength 7, AP minus 2, and 2 damage. So it's got its damage smoothed out. It was D3, and it's got an extra point of AP, which I think is down to the lack of the advanced targeting system support system, which was basically give you an extra point of armor piercing. I think that's why a lot of the weapons have got the AP built into them, because they pulled that support system out. Lords of War, there 8 are not in this codex, which, okay, why? What does that mean? They're not usable anymore? Whether or not this means there will be a Farsight Enclaves codex supplement at some point, I really think there should be. If they're not going to put it into the codex, there probably should be. Storm Surge is down 5 points. 330 points from 335. And that's with the built-in 4-up invuln. So the Pulse Driver Cannon is the weapon that was not released before. So previously the Pulse Driver Cannon was 72-inch range, heavy D6, strength 10, minus 3 AP, D6 with blast. So you can see it's gone from a heavy D6 to heavy 3D3. So previously averaging 3.5 shots, now averaging 6. So more shots. Strength 10, AP minus 4, D3. That's pretty much the Tau Codex leaks. I've probably glossed over some stuff. I've missed some stuff. It would be nice if there was a better, more concise summary than what I've put together. But I'll put this up on Google Drive somewhere. You can pull it down, read it if you want to. Everything's on the Reddit post. I'll link to that as well. And if there's anything in particular I've missed, let me know, because I probably have. Anyway, I'm super stoked and I am excited to get this codex.